Okay, so get ready because we're going on a deep dive into this paper that's looking at how AI can tackle personality and misinformation.
Yeah, it's really asking, can we program machines to act human enough to teach us about ourselves?
And not just like general human behavior. We're talking about how different personality types respond to and spread misinformation.
It's like imagine a digital petri dish for social psychology experiments.
Exactly. This paper uses AI agents that embody different big five personality traits. Yeah, openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism.
Oh yeah, those.
Yeah, and it throws these agents into debates about classic misinformation topics like vaccines, 5G conspiracies, all that.
Yeah. The goal is to find patterns in how personality influences who gets persuaded and who resists.
So they built these AI agents using the agent scope framework as a large language model called GLM-4 Flash. Basically, they wanted these agents to have real back and forth conversations trying to win each other over.
Which is pretty different from just analyzing data. This is AI trying to actually mimic the messiness of human interaction.
Yeah. Emotions logic, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly.
And this is where it gets interesting. The paper found that it's not just about your personality.
Right.
It's about the interaction.
Yes.
Who wins a misinformation argument depends on both people involved.
Yeah, it's like a personality arms race.
Totally. Take this. Finding Agent 6, who was resilient and confident, tends to be very persuasive, more so than Agent 4, who is critical and challenging.
Okay.
And Agent 4 is usually better at persuading Agent 5, who is sensitive and anxious.
Right.
So the confident one wins, the skeptic does okay, and the anxious one struggles.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Right.
But
Yeah.
here's the twist. Agent 5 sometimes persuades Agent 6 more effectively than Agent 4 does.
Wait, so you're saying the anxious person can sometimes win over the super confident one?
Yes, sometimes it's almost like rock, paper, scissors, where certain personality types have an advantage over others.
But it's not always consistent.
Exactly. It's not that simple.
So how is that possible? What's going on here?
Well, that's what the researchers are trying to figure out. It suggests that the power of certain personality traits might change depending on who you're interacting with and even the specific topic.
So even if you're generally a very persuasive person, you might struggle against someone with a specific personality type who's really passionate about a certain issue.
That's one way to think about it.
Okay.
Now, let's look at some specific examples from the study.
Yeah, because I think that's where this will really come to life for our listeners.
I agree. One interaction that really stood out to me was when Agent 4,
Yeah.
remember that's our critical and challenging personality, went head-to-head with Agent 5, our sensitive and nervous type, on the topic of HIV misinformation.
Okay.
Agent 4 was able to convince Agent 5 a whopping 59.4% of the time.
Wow, almost 60%.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big win for the skeptic.
It is, and it makes sense when you think about it. Those with a more critical mindset are less likely to just accept things at face value. They're constantly poking holes in arguments, looking for evidence demanding proof.
But does that mean we're all doomed to fall for misinformation? Unless we're naturally skeptical.
Not necessarily. The study also found that non-aggressive persuasion strategies were surprisingly effective. For example, Agents 1 and 3, who were programmed to be less confrontational,
Good.
consistently persuaded their counterparts more often than not.
Really? So you're saying being nice works better than being a know-it-all?
Well, it's not quite that simple,
Okay.
but it does suggest that building trust and rapport can be just as important as having all the facts and figures.
Right.
Think about it. When someone comes at you with aggression, your instinct is to get defensive, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I've definitely been guilty of shutting down when someone starts yelling at me about why I'm wrong.
exactly. But when someone approaches you with empathy and understanding, you're more likely to be open to hearing what they have to say,
Yeah.
even if you disagree.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this all fits together, but how does this relate to the real world? Are we saying that everyone needs to go out and become like an expert debater to avoid falling for fake news?
Not at all. It's more about recognizing that personality plays a role in how we process information and how we interact with others, especially online. It highlights the importance of media literacy, critical thinking, even emotional intelligence.
So what does this mean for those of us trying to have, like productive conversations about potentially sensitive topics?
It suggests that taking a more nuanced and empathetic approach might be more effective than just attacking someone's beliefs. Try finding common ground appealing to their emotions, maybe even share personal stories or experiences that relate to the topic.
So ditch the I'm right, you're wrong approach and opt for a more understanding and compassionate conversation.
Precisely. And remember, this research is just scratching the surface. It focused on a limited number of personality traits in a very controlled environment. The real world is far messier and more complex.
Right, we're talking about real people with, complex emotions, backgrounds, experiences, not just AI agents in a simulation.
Exactly. But this study gives us some intriguing clues about how personality might influence our online interactions. It also raises some really interesting questions about how we can use this knowledge to create a healthier and more informed online environment.
And speaking of interesting questions, I think it's time for our Novel Notions segment. Okay, so Novel Notions time.
Here we go.
The part of the show where we take the research and think about some, out there, but hopefully interesting ideas about where it could lead.
Right. Given what we've learned about personality and misinformation, this is definitely a good area for that.
Yeah, totally. So what if we could use this research to create AI buddies that help people spot misinformation?
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Imagine an AI that gets your personality and then tailors how it debunks misinformation in a way that works for you.
It could be a personalized fact checker.
Yeah.
So say, you're someone who is easily swayed by emotional appeals.
Right.
Your AI buddy could be like, hey, watch out for that super sad story. Maybe we should check the facts before sharing it.
Exactly. Or if you love conspiracy theories, it could point you to some better sources and say, okay, but let's see what the experts actually say.
Be like this little voice of reason, just gently guiding you away from all the misinformation.
And it could be totally personalized to you, learn how you communicate, what your emotional triggers are, what you're most vulnerable to.
Oh, that's cool. It wouldn't just be a generic fact-checking tool.
Right.
It'd be like a misinformation mentor.
Yeah, like someone who really knows you and can help you spot those traps.
Totally.
Of course, there's some ethical things to consider. We don't want this AI becoming manipulative or making echo chambers worse.
Yeah, it would have to encourage critical thinking, not just tell you what's right.
For sure, transparency and user control would be super important. People would have to choose to use this and know how their data is being used.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if we could get it right, this could be huge in fighting misinformation.
Yeah. Imagine everyone having their own personalized AI guide to help them figure out all this complicated information.
Right, it'd be like a personal trainer, but for your mind, helping you build up those critical thinking muscles so you don't get tricked.
A very compelling vision, and even though we're not quite there yet with this kind of AI, this research gives us a good idea of what could be possible.
Well, that's our deep dive for today.
Yeah.
We covered a lot from these AI personality simulations to this idea of maybe even having a personalized system to help fight misinformation.
And as always, we encourage you to stay curious, stay critical, and keep those talk tensors tuned for more deep dives into the world of AI.
See you next time.